Hey, this is JJ with the DRE Project. And if you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should be listening to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my great friend, Scott Ferguson. Let's level up.
Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. This is Scott Ferguson. And those that know me, I reside in South Florida, but I have roots in Detroit. And I decided that I really need to kind of reach out to somebody that I haven't spoke to in a long time. I've known this person for almost 30 years, kind of grew up in our youth together and had a lot of fun. But our lines as we got older ran parallel. Our lifelines kind of ran parallel. We both lost our little siblings. We both built businesses. And she's got a program or a company, nonprofit company called the DRE Project. And it's basically an homage to her little sister that she lost. She's feeding a lot of the homeless in Detroit, Michigan. And what the huge heart that my good friend Jennifer Jackson, or JJ, has is above reproach. She's so giving, so outgoing, although like myself, we kind of are introverts, but we also can get out there and get after it when we need to. She drops some serious life lessons or knowledge nuggets that can really help you see things as you transition out of dark periods. And she gives steps on how she did it. And it's basically kind of a masterclass on really working through life and flourishing even after the worst tragedy. So without further ado, here's my really good friend, Jennifer JJ Jackson. Let's level up. Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. This is Scott Ferguson. I've been over the moon stoked to bring this guest on. Literally, we go back, we were talking off like 28 years. We probably threw back a few brain grenades back in the day and ate a lot of chicken wings and just watched our Detroit failing teams fail a lot and laugh about it, and had a lot of late night funs and laughs. And just now, like, both of us have went through a lot of turmoil with losing siblings, but never let it kind of stop us from giving back and leveling up our life. And again, it's Jennifer Jackson, JJ. There's a in Detroit squad, which I'm rocking the city here. If you're watching Vimeo or YouTube, it's kind of like the people they down here on the east coast of Florida, everyone smacks me in the face, Detroit pizza, whatever, because we're in New York and stuff. I'm like, listen, just try it, and they love it. But her family is involved deeply with the big three. There was Hungry Howie's, Little Caesars, and Domino's, which I'm sure everybody's heard of those, but they all come out of the city of Detroit. But Jennifer's father, JJ's father, had a lot to do with the Hungry Howie's, in which got her involved in the company since she was like 10 years old, helping out at stores, helping out in the corporate office, summer vacations. She started, I believe, in probably 1998 as an employee, as the Fundraising Coordinator, and is promoted in the year 2000 and named Vice President of Development. And again, going back to, we both lost siblings. She's lost her little sister, Dre, in basically, so she was really moved by that. She was lost for a good 5-6 years, but she got moved to start the DRE Project in 2020. And what they do is they stock pantries and families of veterans and the homeless people. They're really in need in Metro Detroit, my roots. And again, Jen and I go way back. We're probably going to maybe share a few stories. Well, we just had a ton of fun. I mean, she's absolutely still stunning, just a beautiful soul inside and out. And Jen, thank you so much for coming on. Please introduce yourself to the Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. But I got to ask you first, what's your favorite color?
Oh, purple. Hands down, purple. I'm a
Different.
purple girl. I actually even have my purple Air Jordans to wear today. Love them.
And squad, today is April 25th, which is not going to air today, but the draft is in the next year's Super Bowl champion Detroit Lions territory here. I swear, Jen, like, I would get laughed out the door like just 3 years ago. I'm like, we're on the right track.
I know.
You know
We
what I'm
all did.
saying?
Listen, we all did.
It just seems like, because again, Detroit really is known as the big three for Chrysler, General Motors, and Ford. But it looks like Dan Campbell walked right off the line at one of the big three, grabbed a clipboard, and just walked out to the football field, doesn't he?
He
He's a
did.
handsome man, but he looks like gruff and like ready to rock, right?
He is. And you
Right.
can tell he loves the city. The city
Yes.
loves him.
Yes.
And the city's needed something like this for a long time.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Well, speaking of the city and our roots and stuff, let's get back to a little bit of the roots of Jennifer, because I know you were always driven, but again, you and I really known each other off the clock when we were young. We were 21 to 24 years old, right?
right. The best years.
The best years. But it's funny because sometimes I ask a question: if you can go back anytime, where would you go? Just to observe, but come back to today. And I'd always say there's a really good kegger in like 1995 or 96. Like, just to spend the night there. But yeah,
The
also,
90s were a
oh
blast.
yeah. Yeah, in squad, both Jen and I are followers of Christ. We're unabashedly so. God is our light, God is our spirit. So, and I'm glad that we both walk that walk. But Jen, let's get to the roots a little bit. Let's get rocking and rolling, and kind of where you're from, kind of coming up through the business world, and also to what happened to kind of really start this awesome the DRE project.
Sure, absolutely. Well, being in the pizza industry, I kind of grew up and started in the stores at 10 years old. I actually, when I was super little, wanted to go to work with my dad all the time because he would go at night and I never understood why he would leave. And so I always wanted to go with him. And one day he just to kind of shut me up was like, all right, when you're 10. Well, my birthday's in August. So I was so excited on my 10th birthday. I came running downstairs and I was like, let's go. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you said we can go, I can go work in the stores. And he's like, oh my gosh. So we went to store two. I remember my uncle was there. They were like helping me take orders and making the pizzas. And it was so, so fun. And then flash forward, I just kind of grew up doing that most of my life, went to
Yeah.
college to be in the pizza business, to come back and kind of jump into the family business and move forward. And I did that for probably about 20 some years. In that interim, I lost my sister in 2013 and pretty much just went to the dark side at that point.
Yeah.
I had been raised Catholic, but I had always thought I was a really bad Catholic my whole life and I went to Catholic schools and just always thought that I was in trouble. And so I really struggled with Catholicism. And then when I lost my sister, I was like, this is all crap. Nothing
Yeah.
exists. It's just a lie. And so I actually in 2018, my daughter had an exchange student here from Paris, and I had been wanting my daughter to go to this non-denominational church. And so finally, because the exchange student was there, they were all like, hey, let's take the girls to church.
Hmm.
So we went in. I had 7 15-year-old girls with me in Kensington, and I
Oh, you
sat
went to
down
Kensington? Okay.
and I started sobbing. And literally, like I felt like the priest was talking to me, and that really just became like my full awareness of realizing that I was wrong and that there was something and I just needed to look into it more. So that kind of started my journey was that day walking into Kensington.
You said it was 5 years after Dre passed?
It was, yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. It's almost kind of
Yeah.
like you write a lot in her bio and other things you've written. It's like she still has quite an impact on you. But I want to kind of go back and hear about kind of the big sister, little sister dynamic that you guys had growing up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she was my best friend. We were 3 years apart. When we grew up, my dad wasn't this big pizza guru, right? He was getting into the pizza business.
Okay.
And so we grew up in blue collar family in Canton and just had a great time and hung out with all of our friends and didn't really start to get into the real pizza world until like high school. And so we just had an awesome childhood of playing outside and we had a pool in our backyard. And I swear back then, it was like the whole neighborhood were your friends, right? Like you were
Right.
outside every day. I mean, from
Yes.
summing up to sundown. And
Yeah.
we had a big park in our backyard and we would just run around that and just had so many friends. And so my sister and I grew up super, super close. My brother, too, he
Yeah.
was 6 years younger than me.
Yeah.
So we grew up a really, really tight, close knit family. And it just, we were the best of friends. So we were just always a really good, close group.
Did she kind of worship JJ a little bit?
No, she didn't. And that's
Okay.
what was so great. We were complete like opposites, right? So between like I would say my brother and I probably got along more
Hmm.
and my sister and I didn't and my sister and my brother didn't, right? She was a total typical middle child,
Right.
always causing problems. I
Lost
was the
one. Right.
overachiever. I was the perfect one. I never wanted my mom to be mad or anybody to be
Right.
upset. She was the one that was always doing stuff and then we had the baby that was the boy, so he never did wrong
I was
either,
just gonna say he can do no wrong ever.
even today.
I
Yeah.
know that.
So Yeah, so it was just kind of it was fun. It was different back then. It's so
Sure.
different than these kids have now.
So during that kind of 5 years between 2013 and 18, and you're kind of in that fog, and I've been there, which we
Hmm.
talked off the mic, and other my listeners out there know about my story with that. But like, what was that time like?
Yeah.
Like, what do
So
you remember from it?
it's like, what do you allow yourself to
Sure,
remember?
sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was very tragic. We got a phone call that she was unconscious and she was in LA at the time living because she was in the film industry. And so we had to all jump on a plane and get out there. And once we got out there, we had to make the decision to take her off of life support. And it was a really, really trying time for my family, like it would be for anybody's family. I felt like it was a complete dream. I mean, from the time I got the phone call until probably that time I walked into Kensington completely seems like a blur. Like it was a lot of darkness for me. It was just a lot of like, why would God do these things? Like that
Right.
was where I just got to the point where I was a single mom. My daughter loved my sister more than anything. And so that I struggled with. Why would God do this to my family and hurt us in this particular way? And so instead of dealing with it, I chose not to deal with it, right? I just
Mm,
pushed it down. And the more you push it down, the deeper and deeper into that darkness that you're going to go. And you just take everybody with you. And it was hard as my family was there too, right? We were all in the
right.
darkness. And then it was my mom popped out real fast because she's a very, very strong Christian. It took me 5 years. I'm not sure if my dad and my brother are out yet, but it's kind of just a journey that you kind of all have to go through together. And at one point, and it's funny that you say, because you reminded me, I did write something. It was actually, I think in 2019, I had woke up because I had realized I stopped counting the days that it had been that I lost my sister. And I was like, oh my gosh, because if you remember that, you're like, oh, I made it a week. I made it a month. I made it a year. So I would keep those days. And then all of a sudden it was like, how many days has it been? How did I stop counting?
You
And
feel
y-
guilty?
felt guilty. Like,
Okay.
what am I doing? And
Yeah.
that really kind of took me into an area to look at, would she want me living like this? Like
Mm,
she would not want me doing this. Like she was the life of the party. Like she was a tornado, we called her. Like she would come into a room and it would just be like totally like take control of the entire
yeah.
room, flip it upside down and then leave and none of us knew it hit us. And and it was
Oh,
just like it made me realize that she had this light that she would just spread everywhere she went. Like, I mean, that was another thing that was incredible. The amount of people that were at her funeral, right? Where you're
mm,
like, the amount of lives that she touched. That's what started to come into my memory as I kind of started to come out of the darkness and
mm.
realize that yeah, the world is a dark place,
Sure.
right? We're
Right.
here, it's a dark place. We're up and down all the time, but it's what we do with our time here.
Yeah.
And would she want me sitting here and crying? She wouldn't. She'd want me to celebrate. And so I need to start.
That's I mean, and like I don't maybe you don't, but I don't want you to ever sell yourself short because when we all hung out, you were kind of that person too,
Really?
right?
See, I
Yes.
love to hear that because I don't remember.
Because yeah, right. But you would be like, oh, where's Jen? Or where'd she go? Like seriously, that's I remember that about you. I remember I journal about it. And that was almost 30 years ago. So you did mention something that life is not extinguished, it just transitions, right? So you mentioned a lot about the dark. You mentioned a lot about that time. Like you went to Kensington, okay? You had the emotional, it kind of hit you. Like what did you start doing after that time to really honor Dre and yourself and your family? But what was
Right.
the steps that you started doing? Because this, I'll tell you, JJ, this can help somebody that is in that dark time coming out now.
Absolutely. No, it can. It can. And that's why I try to tell my story and talk to as many people just to know that they're not alone, that we all are in that darkness. And sometimes the most unexpected person around us is going to be the light, and we just need that spark of that light, right? So
Sure.
from hearing you, I guess I did have that light all along. I just
Mm,
lost it for a really
mm,
long time, right?
right.
And so it was walking back into Kensington kind of reignited that light. So my journey started super easy, right? I literally would make myself go to Kensington every week. That was the
Okay.
first step. And that's probably all I did for a while. And I probably didn't even go every week at that point, if I want to be honest with myself. And I just kind of started the journey. But then I started listening more at Kensington, and they had classes that you could take or courses that you could
Yes.
do. So I took like the Alpha course, which was like get all these questions answered about Jesus. And so I met in these small groups and started just really talking more about it. I then actually took a training class. It was called Live Training, and it was all about trying to figure out almost like what your own superpowers are and what you're good at and what you can take into. And again, this was all through Kensington. So it was really evaluating to look into your hands and see what you already have in your hands that you are good with. So I knew I was good with food. I knew I was good with helping people. And I just, where could I start from there? So I actually started
Wow.
with kids in the
So
three,
good.
4, 5-year-olds. And I still teach them to this day because they're my peeps. I love that age.
Yeah.
But it was like just getting into it because I was really scared. Like I had always felt I was this horrible Catholic and that I was very hesitant going back down this road of being into another system of faith because what if I wasn't good at it, right? I had screwed up Catholicism so bad I could screw this one up too. And now I was an adult and all these people were looking at me, right? And I
Mm,
was active in the church. And so it just kind of all happened. COVID hit. And so I actually went and saw Mitch Albom talk in 2020 of February, right before COVID hit. I had grown up in the Hungry Howie system, and I never was really super happy. Like I
mm,
made it my passion. I always was there. I did everything that I could. I wanted
sure.
to be involved, but it was just always kind of like, now what? Like, what
Mm,
else is there to do? So when COVID hit, I had a lot of people in my church at Kensington start losing family members. And one of my girlfriends had started up a catering business. And so this is funny. I don't cook whatsoever. I literally don't even boil water. And so I would have to go to my girlfriend's every day to pick up food during COVID because
right.
she would be making these home cooked meals. So I started picking up extra ones for families that I knew that had unexpected losses.
Wow.
Specifically, when one girlfriend at Kensington lost both of her mom and dad to COVID within like 4 weeks, and they were in Atlanta, and she kept having to go back and forth, and they had kids. And so I started like dropping some meals off at her house. And then it just kind of escalated from there. And
Wow.
by the end of 2020, my girlfriend was like, I think I was raising funds to deliver like 18 meals a week at that time. And my girlfriend's like, you got to incorporate this, like just do something out of it. 2020 was such a horrible year.
Yeah.
I'm going to force you to incorporate it because I want you to do something with this. And I was like, okay. We incorporated January 4th of 2021,
Okay.
and it just kind of exploded from there. The ball just started rolling. When we first started, we were serving 2 home cooked meals a week for up to 12 weeks to families that were grieving. So
Wow.
if they because that's where my niche was, right? What it's like when you have that after the funeral and everybody goes back to life and you're sitting there like, what life is there to go back to, right?
Right.
You just kind of start going through the motions. You don't even know that you're getting up and driving your kids to school and doing things, right? Your
Right.
body's just going through stuff.
Yeah.
And what is the easiest thing right there is to be able to walk in with a couple home cooked meals for these families.
Takes that
Like it
stress of
gave
time
them
off.
just kind of the hope. Like
Yeah.
I'll never remember, this one guy had lost his wife and he had like 3 young girls, and I kept dropping off to him, and finally I was like, how's it going, Bill? And he was like, well, just day by day, Jen. And I was like, that's awesome because remember when it was minute by minute? There was that. It's almost like that survival mode where you don't
Yeah.
even think you can get through that. And
Yeah.
so again, it was just kind of being that beacon. And so we got up, we were serving 220 meals a week when my chef was like, I am done.
When you say 220, is that total meals or is that per day or like is it
That was 220 individual meals per week
per
that
week?
we were
Wow.
doing. Yeah.
Wow.
So granted, some of them would be like four to a family or
Sure,
stuff
absolutely.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, but it was a lot. And so we actually also started to pivot into the underserved areas.
Real quick, how did you
And
fund this?
I did it through friends and family. I literally did a Facebook fundraiser. When I first started, I was paying out of pocket for
It's so
myself.
badass, dude. Wow.
Well, I just wanted to help people. And I
Yeah,
always, at that point, I was really into Kensington. I know that we're supposed to tithe, right? So I was just tithing the money that I was spending on these meals into my donation on tracking and saying, this is what I'm giving
right.
people. And then I did a Facebook fundraiser. And then once I incorporated, I actually had a huge kickoff in January of 2021. I rented out Social in Birmingham. We partnered with them and we did a big event. We raised $50,000 that first
Wow.
night.
That's awesome.
And that kind of just set us up. And we've been going nonstop ever since.
Amazing. Amazing. So who who like would be a great like introduction for you? If I was networking, press and flash or whatnot, like what is somebody saying that would be like a really good introduction or referral to the Dre Project?
So the DRE Project delivers groceries and a home cooked meal to families facing hardship. So with that being said, we will deliver to anyone that comes to our website. We first originally partnered with Humble Design Detroit, which I'm a huge fan of Humble Design. They
Yeah.
are interior decorators that
Hmm.
furnish the homes of families that are transitioning from homelessness.
Okay.
And they literally
Wow.
stage the home like an extreme home makeover in like 4 hours. It is the coolest thing you ever see.
Wow.
So I had been wanting to hook up with Humble and I finally did. And so at that time we pivoted from doing the home cooked meals and we did the groceries. So we came up with 60 pounds of groceries that we deliver that would be good for like anybody's transitioning to start your new home, right? Flour, sugar, condiments, just all those necessary things that you need to be able to
Sure.
prepare meals for your family. And then I still have my chef, so we still provide a home cooked meal alongside of that. And so we actually partnered with Humble Design, I think in 2022, of of 2022. In the first year, we did 91 houses alongside Humble Design. And
Wow.
then last year in 2023, we did 151 houses with Humble Design, but we did 263 houses total on our own. So
Wow.
once I partnered with Humble and realized that we had this need that we could fulfill, I started reaching out to like social workers and stuff because I thought, how many people are still transitioning to homelessness but don't have Humble
Absolutely.
Design coming in?
Yeah.
They can still get that. So we did that. And then we started getting calls from nonprofits that serve cancer patients. And they're like, would you be willing to serve our cancer families? Absolutely. Listen, we deliver one time. So we'll deliver to anyone. So if people are having a hardship, they go to our website. But if they're facing cancer, if they just lost their job, we don't really ask any questions.
Yeah.
So we've stayed private fundraising because I went to go into the grant process. And
Mm.
guess what? You're restricted on who you can serve when you take grants.
So you got to stay private then, or to
I'm
make it
going
work
to.
the way
I
you
want
want it to
to.
work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've got 2 more years to get into our public charity status.
Sure.
So we're going to just keep crushing it until then and just partnering with individuals that really people helping people and want to give back in their community.
Love that, man. What you're doing is just it's unbelievable. It's
Well,
like not unbelievable. It's just it's freaking amazing, John. you
It's
know?
well, and I know it's my sister, right? So now
Yeah.
it's like I see this light, and we used to laugh that she like had this wounded bird syndrome that she would like always be like taking people in, and I'm like, and now look, right? But
Mm,
again, we go in and we help people in their time of need, and I can't help but look at it as being like Jesus now. Like I
yeah.
had the ability to going to Kensington, I had the ability to meet Jesus and being
Yeah.
able to have that face to face and know I'm going to walk with him
Yeah.
gave me that ability that what he's not going to always be here, but the poor is always going to be with us. And so we need to
Absolutely.
take care of them.
I love it. And and again, I'm not saying you're selling yourself short, but there's aspects that Dre had that shined because she was the middle child. You had a ton of pressure on you as the older child. You couldn't let that side out as much. You know what I'm
So
saying good
true.
grades, this,
Yeah,
this, this. You had to be the model. Again, your baby brother could do no wrong. But she just let the hell shine. I think it's naturally coming out of you. And maybe she obviously she kind of motivated that through you, JJ. But let me ask you something. You seen the movie Back to the Future?
of course.
All right, I mean, come on, it's gonna be 40 years old. Like insane because I
Oh,
don't
I
even
know.
know. You
I
and I
mean,
weren't even
I
born,
think I've saw it. I must have saw it just recently then.
right? Wink, wink. Right. So let's get in that DeLorean with Marty McFly. Right. Let's go back to the Double Deuce, the 22-year-old Jennifer. What would you say to her? Not so much to change anything, because our journey's our journey, but maybe to help her shorten a learning curve or blast through, maybe just a little bit quicker.
So I used our core values, which are dream big, be resilient, and have empathy, because that's the one thing I always go back and tell that little girl. Because you're right, we kind of get in life and we get caught up of who we're supposed to be, and we get in our own heads and we go. And I actually just started listening to everybody else, right? And it took me a long time to finally realize when I started to do the DRE project and started to kind of take a back seat from how he's with my dad, he's like, "What are you doing?
Right.
You know, why are you doing this?" And it's like, I don't know. Most people thought I was crazy. Well, here she is having her midlife crisis. And it was like, well, I just realized it's in giving that I receive. And I love helping these people. Like,
Yeah,
I love it. Like, it's actually hard. I have a ton of volunteers. And so I'm really, really blessed.
that's
So I
awesome.
don't get to deliver a lot anymore. So
Mm,
I love it when I do because it's just being able to go in there because the families that we're delivering to are so gracious. They're so happy. We don't ask questions. They call us, we have a short conversation. We want their address and how many people live in their household. And then we're going to deliver and we deliver 60 pounds of dry goods, a home cooked meal, and we most recently added our birthday kits, which
mm.
is a birthday pan with ingredients, cake mix, frosting, candles, like streamers, balloons, those little blow things. And
Wow.
then I learned this year, you can utilize a can of Sprite in a cake mix instead
Mm.
of
Yep.
milk and sugar
Yeah.
or milk and flour or the water, and it will replace it. So we include a can of Sprite in it. So then we have kids assemble them and they make cards and stuff. And so every family is now getting this birthday kit to
That's
be able to have a
amazing.
birthday.
That's
Because who
fantastic.
shouldn't have a party?
Right. Everybody.
Everyone.
Everybody should be. Yes. I love the acknowledgement that you're showing. So, what do you think, JJ, that people misunderstand the most about you?
I think that for the most part, people just think I got to where I was because of who I was, right? It's just like, oh, well, it's
Mm,
easy for you. And I kind of see that when, as I got into the nonprofit world, but what I'm so blessed by it because the nonprofit world is not so organized.
sure.
And getting into it with having this full business background, I look at things so differently. Like
Yeah.
we've been very sustainable. Like we got our 501(c)(3) approval before we took step two. A lot of people, it just kind of falls into place and they're scrambling and
Yeah.
doing all of it. And it's like, how did I get here? Where I've been very strategic. And so we started with the CRM program. We've got already 1,000 people in there. We're able to communicate with people. We've got easy volunteer programs and kind of being able to build this machine because
Mm,
I almost see the DRE project becoming this like network of all
sure.
nonprofits. And because I'm just trying to pull a lot of them to work together,
Mm.
because if we can house the homes and or we can put furniture in the homes and we can feed the homes. I also recently just partnered with the Easter Seals Morgue. So
Oh,
if we
wow.
can then provide mental and physical or disability issue or information, and then I also do the New Hope Center for Grief. Like again, we're providing all of these resources to
Oh,
families
you're with
to
New
be able
Hope
to give them. Yes, yeah,
out
I
of Northville?
facilitate. Yes,
Yeah, that she helped me a ton in my
I
little brother and
love
Tim's
them.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're a great resource. I just
Okay.
finished facilitating an 8-week grief workshop with them on Monday. I still do that twice a year, and I do an ongoing group with them virtually every first and third Tuesday of the month.
That's amazing. Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. We are back. And JJ, you and I could talk 15, 20 minutes about each one of these questions, but today you have 5 seconds with no explanations. I promise you, love, they can all be answered that way.
Okay,
Okay? You ready to level up?
I'm ready.
Here we go. JJ, what is the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
Trust yourself.
Yes. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
I say I read the Bible in a year every single morning and do my Bible study before I even get out of bed and set all my armor on for the day to be able to move forward.
That's beautiful. Love that. So you might see me, maybe I'm in my doldrums walking down the street or something. You're like, hey, Fergie, what book might you hand me to level me up?
Oh, so I'm trying to think. I just read Atomic Habit.
Oh, James Clear. It's actually a
Yes.
friend of mine. That's
Oh
awesome.
my
Very
gosh.
cool.
Yeah.
So your most commonly used emoji when you text.
The love emoji. So it's the
Yay.
heart ones, right? The smiley face with the hearts around it.
Love it. So I have to ask you this. If you could be one age physically for the rest of your life, keep
Yes.
the knowledge you've garnered and continue to gain knowledge, but physically, what would you be?
45.
All right. Like it. Any hidden talent or superpower that you have that no one knows about until now?
My superpower is love. So like if
It's
I
so
if I love you, I will love you forever.
love it. Chess, checkers, or Monopoly.
Oh my God, all of the above.
Okay, very cool. Headline for your life.
Dream big.
Yes. Go-to ice cream flavor.
Mint chocolate chip.
Awesome. So there's a sandwich called the JJ Dre. Build that sandwich for me. What's on
Peanut butter and jelly.
it? Right on. I love this. And so, okay, is there any other charity organization you like to give your time or money to?
I do it through with Kensington, the
Oh,
New Hope
nice.
Center for Grief,
Oh,
Easter Seals Mark, the New Day Foundation, which is families
nice.
facing cancer.
Okay.
I have a hard time saying no to any of
Me
them.
too. Me too. I feel you. And last question, you can elaborate on this one a little bit, but what's the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
Totally the 80s.
Right?
I'm
Big
an
hit,
80s
no
girl.
kid.
I
Dude,
love it.
everything happened in the 80s. It's
Oh
like,
my God, it was the
I
best.
mean, the introduction of rap with Run DMC and LL Cool J, the invasion from U2, invasion from Duran Duran Culture Club, and then you had Big Hair Don't
Yes,
Care. It's like everything was in our year,
it
man.
is.
You
It
know what I'm
was
saying? So,
incredible.
JJ, how can we find you, love?
You can find us on the DREProject.org. We are on Instagram, we are on Facebook, and we also are on LinkedIn.
So the Dre Project. So it's THEDRE project.org. I love it. And also get into the about page. It's just there's so much in there. She had me moved when I read a lot through that. And so do me one last favor, JJ, and leave us with one last knowledge nugget, something good that we can take with us, internalize, and take action on.
My biggest thing is always believing in yourself and really
Yes.
trusting your gut instinct. I think for so many years, I was so concerned of what everybody else thought about me and who I was supposed to be that
Yeah.
it took me a really long time to realize that I didn't have to be who everybody else thought and wanted
Yes.
me to be. So, what's super funny is a lot of people would think that I'm an extrovert. I'm a trained extrovert, I'm a
Me
total
too.
introvert.
People don't believe that.
They know, but they don't believe it at me
Yeah.
either. But it's like it's just, again, I can go into any situation and turn it on. And
Yep.
I guess maybe that's a good thing, but
Yeah.
I'm the best at being JJ, right? I've
Yeah.
reinvented myself a million
Yeah.
times and just keep
Yes.
doing that. And once you hit rock bottom, just ask for forgiveness and turn around and keep going, because it's
Yes.
a journey, it's a life, it's our own path, and
Yeah.
we each just gotta live it every day.
I love that. And I make 2 New Year's resolutions every year since Tommy killed himself, right?
Hmm.
One is make someone smile every day.
Yes,
And two, unless I've hurt you, disrespect you, owe you, or judge you, I give zero what's about what you think about me. It's just I
absolutely.
can't. Once I
Yeah,
stopped that, I started serving so many people, the
so
people
much.
that needed to be served. And I'm
Yes.
also open to reciprocation,
Yeah.
also for it as well.
Right.
So
Well, it's the stopping the judging. I think that's the biggest thing
yeah,
with people. And
sure.
it's kind of funny because a lot of people that think they're not judging, then all of a sudden you're like, well, isn't that judging? And then
Yeah.
they're like, oh, it's
It
like,
is.
why
Oh
do
yeah,
you
I catch
care?
myself. Yeah, absolutely. And squad, I just had like a really fun kind of reminiscing, but also a jump forward conversation with my good friend JJ here, who really started making her bones at age 10, like going with Steve or her dad to the Hungry Howies and getting it done. She drops so many like knowledge nuggets that's really resonating with me. Like life is not extinguished, no matter how dark it is. Just remember that it transitions. I mean, when the day starts, it's midnight and it's dark. You still don't have daylight for 6 hours, but you're not just going to not live. That daylight's coming. When you are insemination happens, you're in a dark womb for 9 months. Okay. And certain things have got to happen to that gestation period, which means the mom had to eat right and do the right things and stay healthy for a healthy baby to come out into the light. So if you're in that dark place, don't resort back to doing dark things. Know the light's coming. It's going to come. But the more you can, that gestation period, that you can fertilize it, that you can water it, it's going to happen. Okay. And another thing I picked up from JJ is that inch by inch is a cinch. By the yard, it's hard. She started doing things little by little, one family by one family. She wants you to really lean into your superpower and your values because everybody has them. And JJ wants you to really, really lean into that. She wants you to dream big, be resilient, and have empathy. I mean, that's something that I know that she lives with. I work for that every day. And lastly, really believe in yourself. Your instincts are rarely wrong. So really lean into that. And I'm so blessed that I'm associated and have a friendship with my good friend JJ. She levels up her health. She levels up her wealth. She's still stunning. She's so much fun. I can't wait to get up to Detroit and do a little collaboration or even volunteer and drop off some meals and stuff. So thank you so much for coming on, JJ. Absolutely love your guts.
Oh my gosh, this has been absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast. I love catching up with you, and I can't wait to hang out soon.
Yay. Talk
Yay.
soon, babe.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today podcast, proudly brought to you by Sutter and Nugent Real Estate Excellence, who can be reached at 561-249-7266 and online at www.sutterandnugent.com. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on Time to Shine Today, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also there, you will see our recommended resources. We hope that you will support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've been listening to, it'd be great if you could just give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's our time to shine.